by following Jesus radically and becoming the one whom he was following. And that's why he's also known as the second Christ. May the peace and joy of Christ be with you today. October 4th, a very special day when we remember one of the most loved saints in the Catholic Church, St.Francis of Assisi, who is also known as the second Christ for many reasons. He lived in the late 12th century and the early 13th century. It was the time when every youth dreamed about becoming a great knight. He himself aspired to become a great knight like any youth of his time, and he began to become one. But the call of God comes into our life in mysterious ways. And so was in the life of St. Francis of Assisi. He stands out as an exemplary example for two things: a radical Christian discipleship and for living to the fullness the Lord's Prayer. He accepted the call of Jesus and renounced everything and renounced his own self, as Jesus says, "Deny yourself, take up the cross and follow me." And he renounced everything that he could possibly think of. From palace to street, from richness to poverty, from being a grand knight to being a beggar, and from being son of a so prestigious merchant called Bernard to being a friend of the lepers and the poor. And at one point, he came to that realization of being a child of the Heavenly Father and accepting God as his own father. And in the presence of the bishop and in the presence of his fellow citizens of the town, he proclaimed that this Bernard is not my father anymore, but the Heavenly Father is my father. And that is a great responsibility. That is a great realization. And realizing that and proclaiming what he realized, he began to realize also that everyone and everything around him was his brother or sister. Sun or moon, birds or animals, neighbor or stranger, everyone and everything was to him a brother or sister. Many thought he was out of his mind, but it was his inner freedom and inner call and inner peace that he enjoyed to the full. As Jesus said, the truth will set you free. And he was no more Francis. He knew that something was happening to him, and he allowed that to happen. Jesus was captivating him. As St. John the Baptist said, "I must decrease and he, Christ, must increase." Francis was decreasing, he was diminishing in him. But the Christ that he wanted to possess, the Christ who captivated him, was increasing in him. And that Christ who captivated him set him free. And he experienced the immense inner freedom and peace. And his heart was open to the message, the insight and inspiration and the invitation of Christ to go and build his church. Though initially he took it literally, then he realized what Jesus meant. And then he gave his whole self in his own way to build the church. By following Jesus radically and becoming the one whom he was following. And that's why he's also known as the second Christ. And Christ blessed him with the gift of stigmata. And we know the great impact he made in the Christian world. And many followed the footsteps of Francis of Assisi in his poverty. In today's gospel, we see Jesus using such a strong language against Chorazin and Bethsaida and Capernaum, where he did most of his teachings and miracles and works. Every proclamation and preaching and work of miracle that he did was an invitation for conversion of heart and to come back to the Lord, come back to God. But many who heard him, many who witnessed his work, closed their heart to him. And that's where he began praising Tyre and Sidon, where he hardly visited and preached or did any miracle. But there they were open to the teachings of Jesus. St. Francis of Assisi shows us great example to be open to the invitation and the teachings of Jesus. A call to conversion, a call to follow him closely. My dear friend, Jesus, the Master, who called and touched and transformed the life of St. Francis of Assisi, calls you today that you may be transformed and become like the Master. May the love of Christ redeem us. Amen.